The late President George Herbert Walker Bush is back in his home state for one last round of farewells before he's laid to rest. The presidential plane bringing him from Washington to Houston yesterday passed over his presidential library, where he will be buried today next to his wife Barbara and their daughter Robin. Mr. Bush lay in repose overnight at his longtime church to give people in Houston a chance to pay their respects. A few miles away, mourners waited in a long line to board buses to take them to view the former president's casket. Bianna Golodryga is outside St. Martin's Episcopal Church, where his funeral will be held in a few hours. Bianna, good morning.
John, good morning to you. And 12,000 people thus far have come by to pay their respects to the former president here. Last night I spoke with Reverend Russell Levinson, who gave that beautiful homily yesterday in Washington. And he said he was touched by the outpouring that he's heard. He's expecting a full house here this morning as well. Over 1,000 people will be attending this funeral. We're told that the public repose here at the St. Martin's Episcopal Church has just closed. Nearly 4,000 military and civilian personnel from across all branches of the U.S. Armed Forces, including Reserve and National Guard, provided ceremonial support during the president's state funeral.
President George H.W. Bush returned home to Houston Wednesday night. Greeted by presidential anthem Hail to the Chief at Ellington Field. Earlier in the day, in the company of dozens of family members, the former president left Washington for one final trip aboard the airplane that usually serves as Air Force One. A fitting end to a majestic morning, where Mr. Bush was honored at the Washington National Cathedral in readings.
And the glory of the Lord has risen upon you.
And song. And touching eulogies by longtime friends like former Wyoming Senator Alan Simpson.
And he was a man of such great humility. Those who travel the high road of humility in Washington, D.C. are not bothered by heavy traffic.
Representing the family was former President George W. Bush, who recounted his father's final words.
I said, "Dad, I love you and you've been a wonderful father." And the last words he would ever say on earth were, "I love you too."
And choked up when it came time to say goodbye.
The best father a son or daughter could have. And in our grief, let us smile knowing that Dad is hugging Robin and holding Mom's hand again.
Former Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney formed a lasting bond with Mr. Bush when they served as leaders of neighboring nations.
Every single head of government in the world knew that they were dealing with a gentleman, a genuine leader.
Mulroney said that despite a strained relationship, it was important to his friend that President Trump attend the ceremony.
George Bush was the one who insisted that Donald Trump be invited to his funeral.
Mr. Trump's presence presented an awkward moment as he took a seat in a row with all living U.S. presidents, alongside a predecessor whose legacy he's tried to dismantle and a former rival he's threatened to jail.
Now may the God of peace.
But Mulroney said such moments present a rare opportunity for national healing.
It was great to see such a wonderful man receive such a magnificent send-off, because in his case, it was richly deserved.
And as you can hear and see behind me, final preparations are underway from the Houston Police Department. About 1,200 mourners are expected to attend the service here this morning. Former Secretary of State and longtime friend James Baker will deliver a eulogy. So will the president's grandson, George P. Bush. Now, afterward, the casket carrying the remains of Mr. Bush will travel on a train pulled by a special locomotive, number 4141, from Houston to his presidential library in College Station. That train made its debut in 2005 at the presidential library, where he actually drove the train for a few miles. And incidentally, over the past few years, he's become very interested in bringing high-speed rail to the state. And in fact, 3 years ago, at the age of 91, he was speaking with a woman who's overseeing that project and said, "I want to be on that inaugural train ride." She said, "Mr. President, that won't be until 2023. And he said, "So what's your point?" Once again, you see his humor there.
All right, Bianna, thank you. And CBS News will bring you a special report this morning of President George H.W. Bush's funeral in Texas. You can watch it right here on CBS.
Yeah, but I woke up this morning thinking about that service yesterday. Of course, we were all sitting there watching, as many of the country was. Yesterday, the country said goodbye. Today's the family's goodbye. But I woke up thinking how touching and how loving it was. And I thought the Prime Minister said it very best. It was so richly deserved for him.
Yeah, it was a really moving tribute.
I thought so, too.